kudos to the Nigerian task force, their border guards, and all those who played a key role. It is clear that they acted on some hints, they acted based on intelligence that was at their disposal, and so they quickly got prompted by suspicion, and they did some arrest, and they did some probing, and it got to this beautiful story. Who knows what would have been the case if these people were not rescued? Who knows where the final destination was? Because research and interim investigations reveals that mostly the kidnappers who have a way of transporting some of them in the form of human trafficking to places, notably Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, where black, home slavery is continuously running. It's sad because even as a nation, you realize that if you would talk with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you realize that annually, several thousands of cedis are spent, just to get Ghanaians and other Africans out there who were deceived under the notion of certain good prospects of jobs and livelihood, and they end up there and it's a different thing altogether. Embassies and governments have got to spend a lot of money to bring these people back, and in most cases we are even unable to integrate them properly owing to the frustrations and the depressions they go through there. And so for me, this is one good thing, but the question that arises critically is the fact that having rescued 100, for how long have this been happening? How many more hundreds have we not seen? How many more thousands have we not been able to rescue? To fight such, we need a collaborative, security operation around our borders. We need more intelligence system. We need our CIDs and our investigative bodies to go beyond waiting to be reactive towards cases, but to actually go down there, mingle out with society, become bad boys themselves, so that they'll be able to identify bad boys and their actions, then turn around to be able to apprehend them. I have always been of the opinion that the best approach to fighting crime is for the crime fighter to be a criminal, so to say, himself, in a manner that allows you associate, go with the chameleon style, appear to be one of them, then you understand their modus. Once you understand their modus, you are able to actually do things right to arrest them. So it's good news.
Right.
It's good news.
Right. Elvis, thank you very much. Honorable.
Well, Nigeria is fast becoming a basket case. And it is the only country in West Africa that is every time reporting on kidnapping, banditry, armed robbery. It's a basket case. It could be a manifestation of weak leadership in Nigeria, or it could mean the lack of institutional mechanisms in Nigeria to deal with the huge population. Nigeria has the largest number of blacks in Africa, and so clearly they have a huge population. And so if attempts are not being made to put in place rigorous institutional mechanisms to deal with the population and ensure that there's law and order, the fall back or the fall off will be what is happening. And so Nigerians have a huge tax. Now, they are not being helped by the level of corruption and decay in the system. Nigeria is a fantastically rich country, very rich. I mean, growing up, Nigeria was the first country to assemble Peugeots in the West African sub-region. Growing up, Nigeria, I mean, when they discovered oil, most West Africans started trooping there. And somebody wrote the 99 days in Gege. So because of the huge promise of Nigeria, probably oil, granates, when you stayed in schools, northern Nigeria and granates. I mean, northern Nigeria, part of Nigeria is in Nigeria and yam. Even the West African Rice Institute. It's in Nigeria. It's in Nigeria. But somehow, the leadership of Nigeria has not been able to harness the potential of the country for the development of the country. Part of Nigeria, as we speak, do not have regular power supply. Meanwhile, they produce petroleum. And I had said when I was Deputy Minister of Energy that if Ghana just invested in plants and decided to supply Nigeria with energy, we could be a prosperous nation. But why hasn't it been able to do that? The huge corruption. Huge corruption. Fuel is more expensive in Nigeria than in Ghana. Why? Why is it so? So when people begin to see all these things, they lose hope and they take the law into their own hands. And that is what is happening. That is making Nigeria fast slip down the road of prosperity and become a clear case of failure of leadership. Yes, from the Chibok girls that attracted international attention, many groups have now sprung up in Nigeria. Some are not just fighting an ideological cause, like the Boko Haram. They are now bandits in Nigeria who have now commercialized kidnapping. Yeah. They kidnap just for money because they think they can make ends meet. And so that also, when people now are not fighting for ideological reasons, but are fighting because of their stomach, anytime the stomach is empty, they will take up the gun because they need to feel it. And so that ties in with leadership of Nigeria putting in place mechanisms to ensure that the youth not only get job, but they must be prosperous. They must see hope in the future. Buhari failed. One of his campaign promises was that he was going to end the Boko Haram menace. He's failed. Clearly he's failed. Again, that draws us to the type of leadership that African countries or leaders African countries elect. We must elect a leader who will not spend the first 9 months of his tenure in hospital. Why? And leave the country paralyzed and comatose. You don't do that. Yes, he might be a nice man. He might be a former military leader. He says so. That was one of the reasons why Nigerians elected him. A former military man, he would defeat Boko Haram. But he's failed. He's failed. Nigeria is actually secure. But the more difficult matter that we are entering into, the chapter in Nigeria's banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, and all those things that we are entering into, is that these bandits, these religious ideologues, these kidnappers are now being sophisticated. They're not being armed. How can bandits shoot down a military aircraft? How? There's so much impunity in the system, such that they have the effrontery to purchase anti-aircraft missiles and shoot down a military aircraft. That's a declaration of war. If Buhari doesn't do that, I'm telling him, sitting here in Pan Africa, that the bandits have declared war on Nigeria. Anybody, any country that shoots down another country's military plane is a declaration of war. It's a declaration of war. So the bandits have declared war on Nigeria. And if he's a military man, he should know that. And they were intent on even capturing the pilot. But his good senses of direction removed him, saved him. So yes, it's a good thing that they are publicity. And anytime that they are able to rescue 100, they put it on in the front papers, they put it on BBC, they put it everywhere. As PR stunts, they are doing something. But if you go to Nigeria and if you listen to the watchers of Nigeria, they tell you that thousands are still under capture. Mm-hmm. And the state of insecurity is such that people simply do not know what to do. Sometimes you forgive the Nigerians, even though you give them the bad name and hang them in Ghana. You forgive them because the insecurity is such that People do not just feel safe in Nigeria. They flee. They flee. So, concluding words, yes, it's good that they are able to do that. It's good that they are able to release 100, a pound in the ocean, a dip in the ocean. But clearly, Nigerians have got more to do. And because we are in West Africa sub-region, we should be watching the situation closely. Because as the bandits become bolder and bolder, so will people elsewhere in other countries try to emulate them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so we should be watching the close.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable Enos Afuseni. Just join us. You're watching the news preview segment here on your #1 station, Pan-African Television, with me, Kwame Usudan. So let's now listen to Mr. Pratt on this subject matter. Sir, please.
No, I think there's very little to say about this. I mean, kidnapping for ransom, kidnapping as a political tool, and so on, has been happening in Nigeria over a very long period. What is shocking is the fact that Buhari has not been able to keep his promise to curb the insurgency in Nigeria. Indeed, most people in Nigeria voted for him because he promised to curb the insurgency, and he's been a total failure when it comes to dealing with Boko Haram, when it comes to dealing with all the different insurgencies in Nigeria. You know, and I think it's important to the extent that the belief was that as a military man, he had what it took, you know, to curb insurgency. A military man necessarily doesn't have a magic wand, you understand? And heads of states do not act like Rambos in the battlefield. So clearly, I mean, this is a demonstration of the failure of Buhari. Normally, the rescue of persons who have been kidnapped ought to be good news. But in Nigeria, it certainly is not good news because it will happen again, you know. And clearly, Buhari, like all his counterparts in the sub-region, haven't done well at all. They've all failed miserably to keep their promises, to provide some comfort for their people, and so on. It's a failure, that's all.
Right, thank you, Mr. Pratt. Honorable Mr. Afuseni, respectfully, let me come to you on the next topic. 1 million more jobs coming, says Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo. I don't know why we've already created some other 1 million jobs, but if the headline is anything to go, but it means that we already have created 1 million jobs. And there are many more sub-jobs coming up. I don't know what you have to say.
Hey, Kwame.
Yes, sir.
If your friend promises you a hat, what do? You look on his head.
Whether he has one.
Whether he has one. This is a president we have lived with for the past this is the 5th year, for the past 4 years. And in accounting for the jobs that he has created in the last 4 years, he's never gotten to 500,000. He's never accounted even for. I mean, there are even conflicting figures as to the number of jobs that he's created. You remember the conflicting figures between the Minister of Labor and Employment and the Minister of Finance in his budget. And the president and all this and then you spend 4 years. You have not been able to create 1 million jobs. Then you come and tell us that in the next 3 years, 1 million jobs. It reminds me of the late G.H. Mensah, when they went to the barber's shop for that money. You remember that loan that they took at the Kufo? And then we said, oh, this money, it won't come. The address is in barber's salon. He went to Jamestown. They had a Jamestown and stood on the platform. The man G.H. Mensah and said, oh, 1 million, the money is coming. And we are going to take some to, that Bagbin was the minority leader. And we are going to take some to Nadoli and develop Nadoli. He said it on the platform just now. May he rest in peace. The money is yet to come. The money. Well, so when you hear 1 million jobs is coming, you must remember J.H. Mensah's statement. The money is coming. But on the more serious note, When has it ever been that in replacing workers in the civil service and public service is seen as creating jobs? When has it ever been the case? Or there's now a new accounting formula for creating, or new definition of creating jobs? You can't, you see, the civil service and the public service is an establishment. So every department of the service has a number of staff that should be there. So when the people retire, vacancies are created. Not jobs are created. There are vacancies that ought to what? Filled. When new schools are built and the teachers are not enough, vacancies are created and they are filled. When we talk of jobs, increasing number of jobs is linked to prosperity. When the economy is growing, now people will come into money, so they will need new things. Okay, if you are using the coil to boil your water, you might not need a tea kettle. Somebody goes to import the tea kettle and he's selling. He knows that the market is in war, so he opens a shop there and recruits somebody to be a salesperson. He's created a job. The job is linked to the prosperity. When, as a rice farmer, if we are able to produce a lot of rice, then there's an entrepreneur who thinks that, oh, the rice that have been produced in Ghana, if you look at the trajectory, they'll be able to produce the rice, the same quantity or more, in the years to come. So I'm going to set up a plant and mill the rice. In setting up the plant, because there will be consumption, in setting up the plant, he's going to employ people. That's jobs that have been created. There are not vacancies that have been filled. The jobs, they were non-existent. And so they have been created. That's how we create jobs. Then Nana Akufo-Addo says that 1 million jobs coming, and that the Ministry of Finance has already issued warrants for 11,000 people to do what? To fill vacancies. Now when you are feeling, you don't want to say that you are feeling, you want to max your failure. You describe the filling of vacancies as the creation of jobs. That's what he's doing. He's full pothole. And so, yes, I understand him. My president, I understand him. But in this case, these are not jobs. These are filling of vacancies in the public service.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me go for this quick commercial break. When I come back, we'll listen to Elvis on this issue. Stay with us. Don't move a muscle.
Years of activism, the Socialist Forum of Ghana is in transition to the Socialist Movement of Ghana, which will hold its first National Delegates Congress in Winneba from Friday, 30th July to Sunday, 1st August 2021.
The Congress will be held under the broad theme, a new platform for socialist transformation, and will be attended by delegates from all the collectives of the Socialist Forum of Ghana spread over all of the country. This conference would approve a new constitution for the Socialist Movement of Ghana and also adopt a working program for the movement. It will consider international and national issues as well as prepare the framework for the mobilization of the youth and women. This is indeed a historic Congress.
This is a time for the reawakening of a socialist movement of Ghana. It is time for the realization of the vision of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and our forebears who fought to liberate Africa from the yoke of slavery and colonialism. It is time to build the Africa we want and to struggle for a world free from oppression and exploitation.
Fraternal progressive organizations, the trade unions, women and youth organizations have been invited to the opening of this historic Congress on Saturday, 31st July 2021 at the Windy Bay Lodge in Winneba, 8:30 a.m. There is victory for us.
Every day, he has a drink filled with malt. Every day, he has a drink filled with malt and milk. Every day, he has a drink filled with malt, milk, and cocoa. Every day, he needs the nutritious goodness of Milo. Milo, the energy to go further. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back. Thank you very kindly for staying tuned into Pan African Television. You're watching the newspaper review segment here on your number one station, Pan African Television. Elvis, let me hear from you on this issue. Yes, 1 million more jobs coming.
It's good news. Certainly, it's good news. If indeed 1 million jobs will come. I have always been of the opinion that if we are able to create one job every single day, it's a plus because it only diminishes the numbers within the kind of expansive labor markets we have. KOD, when it comes to issues of job creation, what it simply means is that we are discussing the subject of, unemployment, which is actually a global canker affecting even major economies. And so you consider this on the heels that in Ghana in particular, post-independent Ghana have thus far operated an economic system riddled with clashing contradictions in respect of job creation by various governments, and this has been more dominant in the governance rivalry between the NDC and the NPP over the years. And I think that these clashing contradictions are actually intensified by the number of graduates whom most of the times come out with backgrounds in humanities without any much technical basis to actually channel them directly into bridging it up in industry. And so one can only say that to be able to reduce the effects of such, you need a proactive, ad hoc, or some form of intermediate revolutionary transformation on the subject to be able to some way address the issues confronting the labor market. I want to disagree with Honorable Inus Afuseni on the fact that
vacancies?
Merely filling vacancies does not amount to job creation. He knew it was going to be, he could foresee, intelligent as he is, that it was going to be my channel of argument. But the truth of the matter is that, and I did human resource management up to MPhil level. One of the ways to create jobs, is by operational expansion. There's no doubt about it. When in critical times, and you can trace back to the period of the Industrial Revolution, when people were doubling jobs, at a point where we were coming out of the Industrial Revolution, expansionism was the basis upon which, we tailored employability of the masses. So it cannot be that the act of filling vacancies is not job creation. It is job creation to the extent that leadership is able to consider the economics of it and being able to supply, adequate various skills into filling existing vacancies that may be the demand. So on the labor economic scale of it, clearly, jobs has been created because someone has been engaged to use intellect and skill, and remuneration or compensation therein will be advanced. And so if you look at what the presidency of or the leadership of President Akufo-Addo have done, you would realize that unlike the NDC, where unfortunately, you know, from around 2013 upwards, we all knew that owing to economic hardships, there was a freeze in public sector, you know, employment. And so if another leadership have been able to navigate through that, either by natural circumstances or by leadership, you know, manipulation, to be able to have that window opened, it only tells you that jobs have been created. And clearly, local government alone, between 2017 and 2019, several thousands of Ghanaian youth have been engaged in the local government system. NAPCO, whom the NDC keeps, you know, rubbishing, but of which majority of their grassroots supporters are making a livelihood from. And indeed, a lot of Ghanaian youth are making some form of livelihood from. I'm not saying NAPCO has become a purveyor or panacea to the critical issue of job, because job in its real definition must be sustainable. However, under our circumstances, we should appreciate that the evil hand of structuralism have not helped the cause of developing nations. And that is why these situations in the global north vary significantly from where we suffer in the global south as third world countries. And so intermediate interventions in the manner the leadership of His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo is bringing in are critical to be considered jobs in our own settings. And if every government, if the leadership of Mr. Mahama had recruited as much as this government have recruited under novel, you know, interventions, I think that we would have moved on. I'm reducing the debate away from just the numerics of 1 million. Even if in the end 200 people under whatever scheme the president is talking about is advanced, clearly the Honorable Yunus Afuseni and all of us should appreciate it, because we've been able to shrink the labor market some way, somehow. So for me, I think it is a good call. My admonishment, however, is that how do we achieve this? And beyond its achievement, how do we create, you know, sustainability? I would appreciate a situation where job creation would be seen as an engineering concept that wouldn't lack any bit of conceptual clarity. There should be deliberate definition of how we want to tailor certain aspects of industry to be able to create employment, and what numbers we are looking at, so that at any point in time the graph can be traced, such that if one government leaves office and another government comes in, you should be able to know where we've been able to engineer up to, what we've been able to bring in, what are the bottlenecks, how do we overcome them to expand the scope of employability. If we can do that, the vast majority of the Guinean youth who are struggling will be engaged. And for me, it's sad. Just at the hint that clearance has been advanced for the recruitment of some over 11,000 people into our security agencies, I tell you, on a daily basis, KOD, I have received text messages, CVs, resource slips, calls from both parents and young men and women like me, seeking help from just me to have access into this. It tells you the desperation. And when issues of this nature are not done, the situation Nigeria finds itself in, that Honorable Yunus Afuseni was lamenting about, started this way. We will end up in this manner because every hungry stomach would be willing probably or tempted to take up a gun for a few dollars. And let us not forget that shadow players from very advanced into the theory of greed for African exploitation are willing to actually get into, you know, our system, make us more vulnerable, so that they can use the idle hands of the youth against its own continent. And so that is where the situation is. So it's commendable that 1 million more jobs are going to come. It's highly commendable. However, sustainability of these jobs, when they so come, irrespective of the numbers, is critical. And I think that our, democratic order should begin to revolutionize the basis upon which job creation will be a distinct feature from too much politicking, so that we allow, people will talk against capitalism, but we allow in the interim for private sector expansion and absorption. It will help the economy, it will help the youth, it will give us livelihood, whilst we look forward to probably a more social-driven, production-based economy that may now bring in the element of sustainability. I end on this note.
All right, thank you very much. I'll come back again to you because there's a number of issues we need to address. But let me come to Mr. Pence.
I'll answer you.
You see, first of all, I think when we are discussing job creation, most of the time we make the fundamental error of seeing job creation as an act of benevolence on the part of government. It is not, can never be. Jobs are created in the effort to resolve the concrete problems that confront human beings. Okay? Jobs are created in the effort to produce the goods, the services, and so on that are needed by human beings to survive. Jobs are created when we engage in purifying, in bringing some excellence to the act of reproduction, the reproduction of humankind, at qualitatively higher levels and so on. That's how jobs are created. Jobs are not acts of benevolence. So when people come to you and say we are creating jobs, ask them, to what end? If you are creating jobs, it must lead concretely to improving these factors that I've described. If you are providing jobs, it must lead to an increase in the housing stock. If you are serious about providing jobs, it must lead to the availability of more food. It must lead to reasonable prices of food and so on. If you are creating genuine jobs, it must lead to better healthcare. If you are creating genuine jobs, it must lead to an improvement in road infrastructure. So this grape talking, and I mean it, this grape talking of creating 1 million jobs, 500,000 jobs and so on, it's all useless and meaningless. You understand? And I think this is the fundamental error that we have not looked at. Now, we've heard so much about job creation, and then oftentimes we are told that, oh, NAPCO. Job creation is not about putting money in people's pockets. Oh. That's an act of benevolence. You understand? Job creation is about freeing the creative potential of people so that they can contribute to our survival. You can put allowances in people's pockets. It's not job creation. You understand? And as my brother Elvis said, jobs must be meaningful. They must lead to a certain elevation of those who get the jobs. It must lead to the release of the full potential of persons who have been given the jobs and so on. This joke about creating jobs and so on, and then every now and then you publish names. Sometimes we claim to have created jobs, and we put people on we just put people's names on paper and so on, give them 400 cedis a month and say you've created a job. How is that job creation? So I want to understand this proper. This 1 million jobs, in what sectors are they going to be created? Yeah. The people who are going to be given these jobs, what level of productivity do we expect from them? And so on. These are the concrete questions. This is how you evaluate whether real, genuine jobs are being created. All the rest is empty, useless propaganda. You understand? Yes, it is possible to put people's names on paper, that they've been employed, and pay them some stipend at the end of the month. Is that job creation? In any case, we are told that some of the jobs that are going to be created for the security services, we are going to get more soldiers, more policemen and so on. Who doesn't know what we have done over the years about recruitment into the police service? If a party in power is simply putting its foot soldiers and vigilantes in the security service, is that job creation? That's an exercise in patronage. That's an exercise in the subversion of the security of the state. That's not job creation. If you decide that your own vigilantes, you are going to put them in the national security, is that job creation? If you decide that your party members who recently met in Koforidua to complain about neglect and so on, you want to silence them because you are going to go for an election in 3 years' time. So you are going to put them in the police service and put them in the army and so on. Is that job creation? We should stop the joke and focus attention on the real problems which confront us. Look, in the capital city of Accra, you drive around at night, especially in the rainy season. And what you see is horror, naked horror. I urge all of you to drive around in the night and see what is happening. Go to Malata Market in the night, the streets of Malata Market, and see pregnant women lying on the street. You see this overhead bridge here, you know, when you're going to Achimota, you see there are some holes under the overhead bridge.
Yes.
Those are the residences of people. People live in kiosks and so on. That's our reality. Sensible and realistic job creation is to build brigades, build institutions that build houses for these people. Houses that these people can afford to live in. That's how you create jobs. Over the last 6 months, the price of kinky has doubled. Any government which wants to create jobs has to sit down and ask itself, how come that the price of kinky has doubled? How do we resolve that problem? In resolving that problem, you create jobs. Meaningful jobs. Meaningful jobs which contribute to resuscitating the national economy. We were told that this funny business of planting for food and jobs, you know, and it's extremely funny because since Adam, we have always planted for food. We haven't planted for anything else but for food. And in planting, we are planting for jobs. So all of a sudden we are told that we are now planting for food and jobs as if we've been planting for something else in the past. You understand? Now, based on the minister's own interview with the Daily Graphic, the minister himself is telling us that the program is on the verge of collapse. So have they created meaningful jobs in that sector? The minister himself, not me. The minister himself is saying that this whole thing about planting for food and jobs, which we have touted over the years and so on, is on the verge of collapse. Look at the level of indebtedness. That ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture, overspent its budget by more than 100%. More than 100% of expenditure in that ministry. And yet it is about to collapse. Let's get serious, my brother. Let's get serious.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. Let me read a few messages and then we'll touch on the other stories. This one, okay, I think they are now loading. Right, so I'll just allow them to load and then we'll come to them, the messages. Let me see if I can read a few messages on Facebook. Felicitas Wakaria says, Alhaji, you are welcome. Alfred Akole says, good morning, good morning. Zach Slim says, so this old man won't stop these lies. Where are the 88 hospitals and you are still promising 1 million jobs? Abba, Nana Ado. Anefi Adam says, the patriotic disappointed member of parliament must not be surprised at the posture of the finance minister. The only language the MPP understands are lies and deception and fake numbering. Good morning to my mentor, my father, Honorable Nisa Fuseni. This one is from Anafi in Tamale Central. Lillian Akosia Bediakon, Parliament Pa. So you were expecting the whole Kenefurata to come before you to tell you the truth about his cousin, the president, traveling expenses. Chia. Who told you he noticed you? Who told you he noticed your exits? He set the ball rolling. He even chose a date for his vetting. Power they talk. This one is from Bauer Michael. Wow, another trustee man. Okay. Mohammed Abdul Razak Ali, how can we believe in someone who is asking people to pray for him for wisdom at his age? Interesting. So these are some of the messages you've sent me on Facebook. If you send them on Facebook, I'll try and read them as well. So let me, Honorable, the health minister, I'm told he's your friend. You're a very good friend.
No, he's not my good friend.
Oh, but is he not your friend?
He was my colleague in parliament. He has never been my friend though.
Why? You don't like him?
Because I don't work under pressure.
Why does he work under pressure?
Because if he's under pressure, he doesn't think properly. He said it.
Well, so we are learning that you may want to take him to court, the NDC.
Well, I think that really, to be honest with you, I think that this is one manifestation of a failure, total, abysmal failure on the part of Nana Akufo-Addo.
Why?
The minister should not have spent one extra day in office. The minister, I mean, we call it in law confession and avoidance. The minister himself comes to say, look, I didn't come to parliament. This is a public procurement. The government of the country is not for Nana Akufo-Addo. Neither is it for the Minister of Health. What he should understand is that everything that you do while in office must be done in accordance with the laws of the country, the practices and conventions. If you are going to spend public money, the accounts have a nice saying, about sika, yendine kwa. Now, yes, that's very nice. I've always liked that saying. You have to go and seek approval before you spend government money. You can't spend it the way you want. No, don't do it that way. The minister says, look, I didn't even go to cabinet to seek approval. What in actual fact is saying is that at the time that he took the decision to buy the Sputnik vaccines, he was acting as president. Because it's the president who can give executive authority with a cabinet. And then the man challenges the president's power, executive power under Article 58. And he's still in office. That's so strange. So strange. But this is the same minister. This is the same minister who went to the eastern region where a hospital project had been abandoned and promised the chief, in front of the chief, and said that in the next 6 months the hospital will be completed. Up to now, the contractors have not gone to site. More than 4 years ago. The same minister. I had even toyed with the idea when I was in parliament to bring him to parliament for assurances. Because he was the minimum of parliament. I was only prevailed upon that I could not succeed because he didn't say it in parliament. The same minister. Somewhere in the FM place area. In capture on video. Because you see, the integrity of political office must be safeguarded at all times. That's my view. And I still hold tenaciously to that view. Because when you diminish the integrity of a political office or a public office, you are sending a message to the future occupants of the office, that the office doesn't really matter. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. This is the same minister who said that he didn't know anything, nothing, absolutely nothing, about the award of the contract for the testing of passengers arriving at the Kotoka International Airport. This is the same minister. The same minister. He didn't know. And he's still in office. And meanwhile, Ministry of Health was supposed to have supervisory jurisdiction over what was happening at the airport. He said he didn't know. And he's still in office. Ministers claims to say that, look, at the time that I was entering the transaction, I was buying the Sputnik vaccine, I was not thinking properly. So when the question is, when does the minister think properly? We don't know. And even it poses a bigger question, my brother. Does the minister work alone in the Ministry of Health? So there was nobody to advise the minister that he needed to seek certain approvals? Or did they advise him when he refused to heed to the advice? What happened at the Ministry of Health? Because I know the minister doesn't work alone. At that time, he had 2 deputy ministers. So what happened? He didn't consult them? Did the ministry as Minister of Health sit to take a decision? Does he have a tender entity committee? Does the minister have a tender entity committee? That when they are buying, procuring, the tender entity committee will examine the procurement. Did he go for approval from the Public Procurement Authority if the purchase was above the limit or threshold of the ministry's tender entity committee? What did anybody say at the Ministry of Health to the minister? This is a joke. When I heard it, I was beside myself with rage. Because it looks to me like the minister is saying that nothing happens at the Ministry of Health without me. And I determine everything that happens there. You're just there for policy. You're there for policy. Make sure that the policy of government is adhered to and implemented. The civil servants and the public officers do the work. And then look at the embarrassment. He says I had to contact a middleman. And I said it on this network platform, my brother Comrade Pratt, that the African Union had established the Covert Alliance. And at that time that the Sputnik vaccine was being purchased, African Union, through the Covert Alliance, had more than 2 million vaccines. Was it 200 million vaccines? Available for African countries to purchase. And all of us know, all of us have gone to school, we know that when the quantities are high, the margins are low. We all of us know that. So the price will be what? Low. So why didn't the minister activate? Was it because of some interest he had in purchasing the COVID vaccine at $19 per vaccine? Was it? What motivated him? What led him? What encouraged him? What goaded him on? We need to know. But the long and short of the matter is that even in Parliament, the minister said, I didn't seek your approval. I didn't seek your approval. The Public Financial Management Act makes it a criminal offense to spend out of budget. Makes it a criminal offense. So even the Minister of Agric and all those things, all those ministers who spent out of budget, they committed criminal offenses. I don't know what the Auditor General will be saying in his next report. Because you can't spend out of budget. It goes back to the saying that I made by the accounts about Sika. You don't spend out of budget. If you think that today the minister is going to be in Parliament for a supplementary budget, you know why? If the estimates he made in a budget for the year cannot be realized, he comes to Parliament to revise the estimates and ask for more money. So if the Minister of Finance has to do that, you a minister sitting somewhere, you can spend out of budget. Even the minister will have to answer, where did they get money to pay for the Sputnik vaccine? Yes! Yes! Where did they get money to purchase the Sputnik vaccines? I mean, this government, no wonder it's a Pilolo government. Because I don't just understand. I don't understand what is happening. You can't run a country, and you see what is more devastating is that we are being run by a person who was touted as a messiah, a savior, a human rights activist, whatever. They had the men we were bombarded, literally bombarded with the capacities of this man. They were almost an invisible lot who could transform this country with the stick, like King Midas. But look at what we are in shambles. But we are in a deep hole. Deep hole.
Elvis, how far?
Well, I listened to the health minister myself in total shock and dismay at the confession that he admittedly acted in error of procedure, and indeed same was occasioned by his lack of ability to have thought properly in his own words. And so if the man have admitted before Parliament that, well, his psychology was not balanced properly enough to think accurate in respect of the project, whom am I to raise a defense for him? Whom am I? That will only amount to hypocrisy, nothing more than hypocrisy. Because he was humble and respectful enough to admit before Ghanaians that, look, I have erred, I'm human, I have exercised the authorities of my office in error of fundamental, administrative and systemic outlays. For me, it was, you see, the word sorry, forgive me, is a difficult thing for a lot of men. And so people would have a number of ways to show remorse for what they did that they think the people they owe a responsibility and a duty of care are not happy about. And so I take the position that very humbling nature he appeared before the committee to admit this. I take same as his way of saying sorry to the people of Ghana for that. That action, the operandi so advanced by the minister, at a very personal level, I judge same as nothing but, kind of like a total betrayal of the integrity of the appointing authority. He betrayed the president. He betrayed the good intentions of His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo, who intended good by asking him to exercise procurement of vaccines to save the good people of Ghana from unnecessary deaths. The president did well. But his agents, who have since apologized and have shown remorse in a more humble nature, I think betrayed that confidence. It's a sad moment. And I think that, if some people want to go to court on the basis of that, in our democratic order, going to court does not necessarily mean one is to be incarcerated in one way or the other for his wrongdoing. In fact, the court in itself, as a human and legal institution, have respect for remorse, especially in matters that are civil in nature. And so if the minister, after having betrayed the confidence and integrity of the appointing authority, who intended good for the people of Ghana, and have been remorseful, I think that we can pardon him for the remorse, and more so, pardon him on the basis of the good intention of His Excellency the President, who wanted Ghanaians injected.
Right.
And vaccinated, so to say. So I think that people who want to go to court, if I have my way to advise, I would say that no, don't. But it's not out of place for anybody to want to do so. It will only strengthen our structures and system so that going forward we are able to bridle ourselves in authority in a manner that does not result to undesirable circumstances such as this. You see, because the action had economic and political, implications on our governance and on leadership. So it was unfortunate for government, it was unfortunate for Parliament, it was unfortunate for Ghana. But this raises concern. It's not the first time that we have public officers, it doesn't matter whichever political divide they are coming from, exercising their authority sometimes erroneously in a manner that disregards fundamental procedures. We have had several of these. We have had circumstances where administrative errors, procedural flaws in this nature have even resulted into judgment deaths that have affected the economy of this country. You know, so these are some of the things we've got to take into consideration. And as we learn ahead, we rise up to the standards of best practices. I think that also it raises critical concerns in respect of, because the minister did explain that he was unable to deal directly, or if you like it, in my opinion, prudently, with the Russian government. So it raises critical issues in respect of the nature of our diplomatic ties. Our foreign services, I think, should have necessarily done some background diplomatic relations prior to the health minister's interaction in any way on such critical government business with the people or with the government of, you know, Russia, such that Accra wouldn't be relating with Moscow all in a blue without resorting to the pillars of diplomacy which we have exercised over the periods. So clearly, the confession and admissibility of his action reveals some windows in other sectors such as our foreign relations. On the face of the matter, that must be given critical attention. So, KOD, I wouldn't talk much else, maybe postulating too much.
Alhaji Bello says I should ask you a question, Elvis. He
Yes.
says, how many errors can one minister be making with his advisors and deputies? How many errors? I think Honorable made mention.
Yeah, Honorable made mention.
And
made
it's
mention of it.
recurring.
And so
that
it is. I did admit that this have not only revealed the circumstances of the operationalization of the health minister, but have also revealed other lapses in other sectors. So it raises critical concern as to how he exercises his administrative logic. Clearly, and I'm choosing my words carefully, KOD, to the extent that a minister of cabinet status admits this and says he did not think properly. One of the revelations and lapses is that there is a gap in team playing. You know? But like I said, all those ones encapsulated under one error of a minister's posture constitutes not only a diplomatic betrayal of our system, but also a betrayal of the integrity of the appointing authority who intended absolute good for the people of Ghana. The president demands commendation thus far on how he led, you know, good leadership in our COVID-19 management system. Other countries, just yesterday, the military of Tunisia took over the management of COVID-19 from government and the Department of Health Services. Tunisia. So it tells you the extent of failure. But in our case, our president have done well. In fact, he's been touted within the sub-region as one of those who have been able to do well, much as we may have our lapses, but he gave good leadership in managing COVID and managing post-COVID, you know, economic normalcy that has happened. There can be room for improvement. However, if some of these things are happening, it only drags us down. And so I think that maybe the president may have done that, I don't know, but I think that the minister would have to be critically advised on how things like this should happen.
I'm coming to Mr. Pratt, but let me just read two messages. Anto Osei says, the MPP man, his name is Elvis. Please, next time address him as such. Does not know governance. Let him be reminded that the health minister took an oath of office, failure of facing the penalty. This is not a question of an act of public sympathy. So, and this one says, it's from Isaac. I personally admire the way Honorable Elvis has discussed the issue. He is being realistic irrespective of his political party. I say kudos to him. Isaac from Japa. Ganda Junior, a person who's hungry goes to another person's farm to harvest cassava to eat and is arrested and jailed, but the politician will cause huge financial loss to the state and the person will be praised. Mother Ghana. Okay. So, yeah, right. I'll read a lot more of the message, but let me come to Mr. Prado on this issue, please.
Well, I mean, look, the issues are so clear, and they have been very clear over the last week or so, that I think that we can now draw our conclusions even before the Parliamentary Committee of Inquiry has finished its work. One, it has been established without doubt that this whole deal did Cabinet, was not considered by Cabinet and did not receive Cabinet approval. That's one. Two, that this whole deal did not go to the Attorney General's office for legal opinion. It's established. It's established beyond doubt that it did not receive parliamentary approval as the Constitution prescribes. It's been established without doubt that all the stories, and I mean all the stories we were told by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Information regarding this deal were a pack of lies deliberately concocted to deceive the public. You see, we were told by both the Minister and the Ministry of Information that one, that before they got in touch with this sheikh, you know, to cook up this deal and so on, they had made efforts to get the vaccine directly from the Russian authorities and that it had failed.
Yes.
It has now turned out that this sheikh was contacted way before any attempt was made to get in touch with the Russian authorities. So that was a blatant lie. We were told that the minister's efforts led him to a deputy ambassador of Russia. It's been established that Russia has no deputy ambassador. So who did the minister contact? Okay. We have been told that it was the ministry which made the first contact with the sheikh. It's now been established beyond doubt that it was the sheikh who made the first contact with the ministry. We were told that the price of $19 per vaccine, the price of $10 per vaccine was the ex-factory price. It's now turned out it was a lie. There was no truth in it. We were told that the price jumped up to $19 per vaccine because of refrigeration, shipping, and all those things. It turned out to be a lie. You know why? You know, the Sputnik vaccine is a powder. It doesn't need refrigeration and all those things. That's a huge lie. Now, it's been established beyond doubt that the Russian Prime Minister was not contacted on this matter. There was no contact with the Russian Prime Minister. And yet we were told that our president led a special effort which involved contact with the Russian Prime Minister. It's a lie. You see, my brother Elvis was talking about how government's efforts in fighting COVID-19 have been commendable and so on. Given all these pack of lies, how are we to know that all the things we've been told about COVID-19 and how we are fighting it are truthful? How many other lies have we not been told? You know what makes me sad? This is a minister with a record that anybody will be proud of. It's a minister who has served as Deputy Minister of Finance before. There's a minister who chaired the Public Accounts Committee and demonstrated sterling qualities. There's a 5-term MP This is somebody who is now Minister of Health. Look at this record. So what went wrong? How did such a distinguished politician get reduced to what he has become? I mean, incredible. Look at his record. Look at his public service record. And look at how he has ended. And for me, my brother, look, let's be serious. When I heard the minister say that when he was making a decision about a crucial issue like the importation of vaccines for COVID-19, he was not thinking properly. I said, my goodness, what is this? He himself said it. It's not that somebody said that he was not thinking properly. He said, he couldn't think properly.
I think the basis for the lack of proper thought has been
Established.
Which is what?
I mean,
He was under pressure.
he was under pressure. You see, there are certain circumstances of life when you are confronted with them. You will be not only under pressure, but also psychological and emotional traumatization. It can lead to things like this.
How do you become a minister?
So it's remorse. It's remorse. And like I said,
I mean, look, if you're accepting the position of a minister, you should know that you'll be working under pressure. No minister works without that position is one which is filled with
You're always under pressure.
But then, what do you want to say about the Minister for National Security? The Minister for Health is under this pressure. What about the Minister for National Security? Or Minister for Finance in this?
That's come.
oh, national security's pressure was manifested too. These pressures, I think you understand. Because no, on the more critical note, in managing every workforce, it entails managing not only what happens within the work environment, but also the psychological issue. I'm telling you.
He was actually under pressure.
You understand? So these pressures, they are work-related stress. They are work-related stress. And sometimes they may not be directly related with the job. But what affects you even at home will affect your productivity at the job.
I understand you.
You understand?
You saw the video.
No, I didn't see any video.
Now, what is shocking is that it is not only the Minister of Health who made all of these mistakes. When the Minister for Finance was signing off this deal, did he see
Cabinet approval?
Did he see cabinet approval? Did he see parliamentary approval? Did he see the advice of the Attorney General? So how come that the Minister of Finance also signed off this deal? So that pressure, which is on the Minister of Health, is also on the Minister of Finance. Hey, Ghana is a big
Transmitted.
in all of this, do you know my worry? Look, seriously, in all of this, I feel very, very, very sad. Extremely sad for this young doctor, Dr. Okoboy.
Boy. Oh. Okoboy.
Don't you pity him?
My fellow Katangi.
Eh? When all of this mess was unraveling, he was the one they were pushing to radio stations and television stations to go and discuss this mess. So today, what is Dr. Okoboy going to tell us? After all these admissions by the minister, given all the defense that he gave, what is Dr. Okoboy going to tell us now? This fine gentleman, this young man with huge prospects for the future, they have destroyed him. They have completely destroyed him. And that is why, as individuals, look, we have loyalties to our organizations, we have loyalties to our workplaces and so on. But when we are pushed to go into the public space to go and talk, look, we must think also about our credibility. Because we also get destroyed in the process. I feel very, very sad for Dr. Kobot. Really. I mean, he is the worst casualty in this. He was the one going everywhere to defend this. And because he's a medical practitioner, because a lot of people love him, and I know many people who love him and so on, and because of the way he presents his facts and arguments and so on, a lot of people believed him. Now all of a sudden they are sitting back and say, hey, we made a mistake. The whole thing was a pack of lies. Kwame, let's stop here.
Elvis.
Yes.
Are you under pressure too?
I've always said it. Listen to.
No, today is my wife's birthday, so
you're not under
pressure is minimized.
I'm listening to Senator Pratt. I think that I'm thankful to God. I've always said, when I was in public office, that there's no vicarious responsibility for an offense while in public office. It might not surprise me if the minister did not know the sheikh. But it will not surprise me.
No, I suspect very seriously that this was not the Minister for Health's deal. Because everything doesn't add up. I mean, for somebody like this minister with his public service experience, with his knowledge and so on, to making such fundamental errors.
So you make a lot of enemies while in public office.
Was pleasing somebody that he thought was more powerful than him. That's what I suspect. I actually suspect. And it happens in the public service a lot. You know that what is happening is wrong. But if you don't have a godfather,
not a godfather. I always believe that.
Listen to me carefully. If you don't have a godfather, and you want to keep your position by all means and any means, you can't stand up to some people. In the final analysis, you are the one they are holding responsible.
Who's responsible?
Today, Masa, listen to me carefully. Today, whoever brought that sheikh, we don't even know. We can't discuss. It is the minister we are all attacking. It's the minister everybody is bashing. It's the minister who is looking like a big liar and so on. But it is just possible, just possible, that this was not the minister's deal. It is just possible. Poor him. Poor minister. Look at him.
Poor me.
You wanted to,
And Mustafa Hamid, when he became Minister for Information, I gave him the same advice. And I'm giving it again.
To who?
To all people, only particularly ministers in the NPP. I know they have a lot of godfathers. Mind you, at the end of the day, you are the one who will be called to account. So you have a responsibility, a duty, to ensure that you obey all the laws, the rules of procedure, and comply. If pressure is put under you, make sure that you take steps to comply with the law to save your head. Because at the end, you will be called to account.
Thank you very kindly. I mean, our time is up. We need to get out of here. But there's one last topic that I want us to discuss.
Dampare.
Dampare. Yes. You know what I'm reading on Facebook? No. Said, oh, he's a nice man, but under Kufuor's administration, you can never have a bad.
That's not a fair comment.
No, Dampare. Facebook.
I know. I'm saying it's not a fair comment.
On one or two occasions, really on the face of it. Even though Shakespeare had warned us that there's no act to find a man's construction on his face. Now, on the face of Dampare, his work, I mean, you can see him, he's actually an icon. He's somebody people can look up to. He entered the police service as a constable, had no role, and rose through the ranks. Also, one can say that the police service can be an institution of opportunity if you use those opportunities. He used the opportunities afforded him within the police establishment and rose up to Assistant Commissioner of Police. In that capacity, he's been called upon to act until a substantive IGP is appointed. Congratulations. But I share the same sentiments like the public. under Nana Akufo-Addo, he might not be that excellent.
Elvis.
Yes, it's a good thing. KOD, I think that this comes on the heels of time for encouragement to young men and women who find themselves, in any field of endeavor, that you can only aim high. Starting as just a constable, have risen, not only through the ranks, but also academically. You need to know what Dampare have achieved. He holds a PhD, he holds a 2 Master of Science degrees at 25, just not too long after he left police school. Yes, around that age, he was a chartered accountant. And in all of this, he is 51 years old now, just around that we are told. So clearly, it tells you that he's an organized individual who is ambitious and knows how to work towards his aspirations. These alone are good enough to spell him as a determined man who can manage the helms of policing in Ghana. The general outcry in respect of, how the system may not be in his favor to operate in the manner he would probably wish are not also far from being truth. Because in this country, across all governments, we have operated a bureaucracy that is not too fair to people we put in power or we put in authority. And so it only is not about Akufo-Addo. The NDC should tell us which IGP under them perform miracles. Better than IGPs under Kufuor or under Rawlings or under, Akufo-Addo. All IGPs come and we say good about them. They are distinguished in their endeavors, but which of them have performed the miracles we are expecting Dampare to come and perform today?
Alassane.
So it tells you that. So you can mention just one out of the many. Are you getting it? Even Peter Namfuri, whom a lot of people tout, if given the opportunity and deeper analysis are made, you will realize that he was constrained. So we have a bureaucratic situation, and for policing in particular,
Right.
it is important we all advocate strongly for a constitutional review to decouple policing and security from political interferences.
I agree with you.
For younger men, they should take inspiration from this. Some of us, when people heard our academic profile, and I suffered this even in my constituency, people say, no, at his age, it's not true. They are fake qualifications. People say those things. But truly, it pays to be ambitious and to achieve the kind of laurels he has. Kudos, sir. All the best.
Right. Mr. Pratt, please, finally.
Well, look, first of all, let me announce my bias. I think it's absolutely important for me to announce my bias. And my bias is that Dampare has been a very good friend of mine over a long period of time. As a matter of fact, last night I called him to congratulate him, because I've known him quite well. And he's quite a gentleman and quite straightforward in what he does, I don't know whether I should say this, but I needed something from the police service, and I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I needed something from the police service. And I called my very good friend Dampare. I said, boss, this is what I need from the police service. He said, no, I will not assist you.
Wow.
Said, I will not assist you because it is not even for your own good. And he did not assist me. He failed to assist me.
Wow.
And he was so blunt about it.
It's integrity.
This is the kind of guy who has been nominated as the Inspector General of Police. He would not even do favors for his friends. And I consider myself one of his friends, So this is the thing about him. Now, to be honest, I think that today, if you look at the police hierarchy, there are many people who have exceptional qualities and who, if they became Inspector Generals of Police, would add quality to the police service. In commending Dampare, I would not, under any circumstance, create the impression that my other friend Kofi Boakye could not have done the job. Kofi Boakye could have also done an excellent job. Dampare's path to success lies in his ability to bring on board all the others to work as a team. Dampare has all the qualities. He's exceptional, he's intelligent, he's brilliant, he has integrity and so on. But Dampare would not succeed if he fails to bring on board all the others, especially Kofi Boakye. So he has to find a way of working together. Yes, he's the primus inter pares, okay? But he's only primus. He's the primus inter pares, but he has to bring together all the others. And if he's able to build a strong team, bringing together people like Kofi Boakye, bringing together people like Tiwa, Adodankwa, everybody, and they act as a team, I'm sure that he will be very successful. And we will remember his administration in much the same way that we remember the administration of Alassane.
Yes.
Nobody can talk about the recent police service in recent times without singling out Alassane and his achievements.
Yes.
And I want, at the end of Dampare's reign, to be mentioned in the same manner in which Alassane has been mentioned. And I believe very strongly that Dampare is capable, in spite of the hostile legal, constitutional, and political atmosphere in which he's going to operate. But that atmosphere doesn't make for an independent police service.
That's true.
That atmosphere, the constitutional, legal, and political atmosphere within which Dampare is going to work, is very hostile to the building of an independent, efficient, and effective police service. But Dampare will do his best.
You can't be praising Dampare with all this without praising the man who saw same to appoint him. So kudos to the president. Kudos to the president. Kudos to the president. I'm not invited us for an analysis. Yes, I was saying that to start with, kudos with
Okay, I'm closing it with it. The Minister of Finance says he doesn't account for presidential travels. The president buys himself.
No, he says it's a national security.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
The president buys himself with passing the Right to Information Act. Now, what is more damaging to that reputation of a president who passes Right to Information Act for his appointee to say that he would deny Parliament the information of accounting for presidential travels?
But, Honorable, we've gone too far. When the question was filed, this minister came to Parliament and said he needed more time. Then he came to Parliament a second time and requested for more time. Are we saying that all that I didn't know that this was the national security?
No, he only tells you that, well, the information is more than...
No, he was asking for more time to be able to review the matter properly and place it in context.
He was asking for more time.
And after proper analysis and review of the matter, he says that the right person should give us better answers which we seek.
They tried the trick.
Yeah.
By also requesting for the details of travel expenses of former President John Mahama.
Yes.
So they were going to release both at the same time.
Yes.
But I think they have realized that that would be a monumental
disaster.
But the best thing to do is to run away.
Thank you very much for your time today. I always thank you, Mr. Kra. Thank you.
My wife's baby.
Oh, it's your wife's baby. Yes. Oh, so yeah.
The beautiful Lila. So
it's not sufficient to come and sit there and say it's my wife's baby, my wife's baby. What are you doing on your wife's baby?
on the show. The first thing I should be doing, the first thing I should be doing is to collect, birthdays. I'm taking Lila's birthday tax from father-in-law Pratt and father-in-law Inusa Hussein.
Thank you very much.
And brother-in-law Keod.
All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a pleasant It's coming. So it's been an absolute pleasure serving you with today's edition of the Newspaper Review segment. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice day. Salute. Bye-bye.
Every day, he has a drink filled with malt. Every day he has a drink filled with malt and milk. Every day he has a drink filled with malt, milk, and cocoa. Every day he needs the nutritious goodness of Milo. Milo, the energy to go further. This advert is FDA approved. Every day he looks after his brother and chases a bus. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, and learns new things. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, and gets back home. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, gets back home, and helps his mom.